All right, good morning and welcome. Today is April 1st, Wednesday, April 1st, and I just want to go through the news. I'm going to be doing this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, days that we would normally be having class. And so just want to go through the news. Yesterday, the president really changed his tone when he was talking about the coronavirus, and his tone really was much more somber. He and his medical advisors were talking about 100,000 to 250,000 deaths in the United States from the coronavirus. And even a really good estimate of deaths is about 50,000 deaths in the United States over the next several months because of the coronavirus. The president said the next 2 weeks are going to be very difficult, but what they're talking about is deaths from now going through August. And just to give you an idea, we lost 57,000 Americans in the Vietnam War, and we're talking about a good estimate of losing 50,000 in a matter of months in the coronavirus. This is really serious stuff. It's unprecedented what we're facing. The latest numbers in Abilene, there's 14 people who've now been identified as having the virus. Let's see, in the United States, there's 180,000. We're approaching 200,000 people with the virus. Here in Texas, it's almost 4,000 people who have the virus. Um, in the United States, there has been almost 4,000 people who've died, and in Texas, 41 people who've died from the coronavirus. So just look at the news. You can see the devastation being caused by this virus in the healthcare system. I mean, who would have thought that Central Park, New York, if any of you've ever been to New York, just a big park in the middle of town, they have mobile hospitals. They have tents set up for people. They had to bring in a hospital ship to New York and Los Angeles just to care for people. And those hospital ships are caring for people with other illnesses because the hospitals are solely devoted to the coronavirus. Um, the consequence of this, of course, is we are doing in the United States what China did, and I talked about this in class before spring break. China shut down its economy, and only now are they starting to get it back up. The United States has shut down its economy. And so, as a consequence, job losses are growing. Some of you might be affected by it. Some of you might have family that are affected by it. Um, how do I say it? The unemployment rate before this was 3.5%. And, we had talked about this in class, how 3.5% is the lowest in the last 50 years. And now we're looking at the possibility that we're going to have the highest in American history. Some of the estimates from the Federal Reserve Board, the US government's bank, are talking about 30 to 40% of the country will be unemployed by the time this thing is through. That's just unbelievable. So, we began the semester. I told you that the economy is doing real well. What goes up has to come down. And what happened here, through no fault of anybody's, the economy hit a wall and it is just collapsing. It's tough. There's no other way about it. People who don't lose their jobs will probably find their paychecks being cut. Um, so, I mean, that's just the way it is. I anticipate that it's going to be happening here at McMurray. Um, People who work for government, because less people are working, so that means less people are paying taxes. So therefore, that means that there's less money for the government to spend. People who work for the government are going to find their pay cut as well if this thing continues for a long period of time. So the president is talking about through the month of April, we're in for a very difficult time. Some of the other people are talking about through May, through June. I've seen estimates through September. And then Dr. Anthony Fauci, the head of infectious diseases for the United States, is talking about, lo and behold, not just that period of time, but he's talking about we get through this and then there'll be a second wave, and the second wave would come this fall. So, looking at some of the stuff in higher education, I have already seen possibilities that some schools will still teach only online for the fall semester before next year, 2021, we get things back to normal. I don't know. Nobody really knows. You just have to think about these things as they go through. Important to note that there's this $2 trillion job stimulus that the White House and Congress have got together, and it's now signed into law. $2 trillion. Remember what the budget is for the United States? $4.7 trillion. Well, now we've added $2 trillion on top of that. Where's that money going to come from? Treasury Department's going to be selling its debt. Okay, and we talked about that in class. So the current debt of the United States, $23 trillion. By the time this thing is over, is going to be $25 trillion. Man. And yesterday, President Trump tweeted that we need to spend another $2 trillion on phase 4 of the stimulus plan. Okay? At least another $2 trillion. That's what the president's tweeting. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, is talking about the exact same thing. Okay? So the government, deeply in debt, is going to be more in debt, much more in debt by this thing. We're looking at a possible cost of $4 trillion, probably before the summer is over. Just unbelievable. Where's that money going to come from? We're going to be selling our bonds. We're going to be giving people, basically people will be giving us money. Countries will be giving us money. And in return for that money, we'll give them an IOU. Okay? It's that bond principle. Okay? Two other things to bring up real quickly. One is it's really interesting. There's a lot of evidence that people can have this virus and not know they have it. 25% of the people who have this virus are estimated to have no symptoms at all. Okay? Could be some of us have it and we just don't know it, and we can't get tested. So you can't get tested without symptoms, and yet they estimate that 25% of the people have symptoms. Don't have symptoms, yet still have the virus. And as a consequence, they're passing it around to other people. It's just an amazing thing. We're dealing with a bizarre thing. And look at what's happening in New York and think that that is what is going to be happening over much of the rest of the country. It's already taking place in much of the rest of the world. This thing is just on its way up, and we don't know how high it's going to get. So be careful out there. This is just the way it is. We talk about the news. This is the news. This has pushed every other thing away. At some point, we'll have to talk in one of these things about the 2020 election. There is going to be an election this year, but right now, it's pushed to the back burner. Okay, that's it for now, and I'll be talking to you later.